So you want to be an energy risk engineer. We're going to take you through what it takes to be an energy risk engineer, even if you've started in some other field, especially if you started in some other field, because I think most of us come from either mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, civil, or fire protection engineering for a chosen few. So we'll go through what it means to be a risk engineer in the energy industry, and then we'll talk about how you can become an energy risk engineer. Stick with us. Career in energy risk engineering is very rewarding, it's very challenging, and it's full of new adventures all the time. Everything from travel to new technology to old technology, learning how a 100-year-old hydro power plant works, going offshore to oil and gas platforms in the Gulf of Mexico, working in nuclear power plants. These are all just a few of the things that I've done. Some of the things that I've done are kind of secret and we can't talk about them, but energy risk engineering will take you to many places and give you the opportunity to have a great career and learn a lot. I spent the first part of my career working in power stations and then eventually in gas processing plants for a corporate risk management group. But fundamentally, I learned all of the hazards. I learned what it was that could go wrong, what it was that we were trying to do in converting energy into different forms, and basically where the insurance interests lie. So, uh, I'm going to take you along this journey that I started with kind of on my own way back in 1983 and see if we can catch you up along the way and show you what it takes to be an energy risk engineer. All right, now let's talk about the different kinds of energy risk engineers. There's generally about four categories that I like to use to understand what the different roles of these risk engineers are. And one of the things you'll have to keep in mind is your appetite for travel. All of the energy risk engineering positions that I'm familiar with require a good amount of travel. There may be one or two positions that I could tell you about at certain insurance companies for account engineering types, but generally, everybody's going to have to travel some. Let's talk about how your current skill set is going to match up with a career in energy risk engineering. Whether you're an electrical engineer, mechanical engineer, civil engineer, or like me, a fire protection engineer, there's plenty to do in the world of energy risk engineering. It's so open because you get to recognize the problems just as your basic engineering taught you, and then you get to create solutions. So it's really going to be your first couple of years of engineering that you apply to energy risk engineering, which is going to be more of your problem solving skills as opposed to the actual mechanical or electrical skills that you developed. And you'll start to see and you'll start to catch on pretty quickly that the even though the world of hazards is varied, what can go wrong seems to come down to just a few things, and it makes it easier to figure out what the incident might have been and how to prevent it from happening again. In part two of this series, we are going to cover how to become an energy risk engineer. Yes, there's going to be a part two. I didn't think anybody would want to sit around for 20 or 30 minutes to hear the whole thing. So, how we become energy risk engineers, where are you going to learn the information that makes your skill set more than just a mechanical engineer or an electrical engineer? You're going to find it in the risk engineering reports that get generated for the facilities that you're working in. If you're working in a large industrial facility and you're being inspected, your facility is probably getting reports. You may not be in the chain of command to receive those or see those, but I will tell you, if you can figure out a way to volunteer to help implement the recommendations or to work on solutions, you'll get to see the reports. But I'll show you some reports in part two, show you how to read them, what to look for, what not to do with a report, like just going straight to the recommendations. And we'll tell you about why. We'll tell you about how to figure out what recommendations matter and which recommendations don't. Another great way to improve your skills as an energy risk engineer is to understand the standards that are in the field of risk engineering. And sometimes we use the NFPA standards, but I'm talking more specifically about the insurance company standards. So groups like NFPA, API, they're writing standards that handle their risks that they're concerned with. Insurance companies, since they're going to pay for the loss, they generally have their own standards, and we'll show you how to find those standards, what to look for, and which ones are probably the first ones to become familiar with. So make sure you like and subscribe so that you know when that part two comes out. You're not going to get bombarded with anything. It's just going to tell the YouTube algorithm that you like these kind of videos. And if you really like them, leave me a comment so that I know. So I'll keep making these. Now, this is part one, and part two is going to be how to accomplish everything that we're going to discuss today about what the different kinds of energy risk engineers are. So let's get into the different kinds. All right, let's talk about where you'll fit in the world of energy risk engineering. One of the first places, and this is the place that I started, was in corporate energy risk engineering. So I worked for finance departments for two large utilities. And it's interesting that an engineer was in the finance department, but you'll find that it's a pretty good place to be if you ever get to do that. You're the eyes and ears of the finance department. You're the one that interprets all of the technical jargon for the financial folks. And it's a awesome role to be in. You also interface with all of the insurance company inspections. You get to review the reports. You get to suggest solutions for the recommendations. You get to work with your company to find capital and improve risk. You might get to go help your company present those risks to the markets and the underwriters. And if you do, that's a treat as well. Being a corporate risk engineer is totally different, I think, than working on the insurance side, whether you work for a broker or for the insurance company, because you're focused on your risk and everything you do is about your company and your risk. When you work for a broker or a insurance company, they have many risks, many clients, so you have a much broader source of information or education or experience, but it won't be as deep. When you are a corporate risk engineer, you get to learn about events that don't even become claims, the ones that the insurance company engineers dream about knowing about. They would love to know about the precursors and the near misses that go on before they get there. So, if you're a corporate risk engineer, your field will be limited to just the company and the risks that you have. But believe me, most of the time, if a company can afford a corporate risk engineer, then you've got plenty of risks to manage. Next, let's talk about insurance company risk engineers. The insurance company risk engineers go through training programs and they have their set of standards, so their role is pretty well defined. They know what risks they're going to be inspecting before they get there, and their job is basically to evaluate the risk, compare it to the standards their insurance company would like, and then to report back to the underwriters as to what they saw. Now, along the way, they will point out issues to the insureds, but remember, their main role is they're there to represent their companies, the insurance companies. They have standards. The standards might exceed those of NFPA or API, and sometimes we can think that it's even possible to argue with an insurance company over compliance with a national standard when really we're trying to get them to commit to a financial obligation, and we want them to take our risk. So we're trying to buy their appetite. We're trying to pay them to take it. And in addition to paying them, we have to convince them. So it's not all about money, because as a German underwriter told me one time, there's not enough premiums to cover all the losses that a bad risk is going to generate. So they're there to help evaluate the risk. Next, let's talk about broker engineers. My favorite, because that's what I am. A broker engineer is very similar to a corporate or internal risk engineer. We're more like an outsourced risk engineer. We represent the insured, not the insurers. And our role is to help advocate for the insured during loss control inspections, during claims, during renewals. So the energy risk engineering duties that a broker performs While they're very similar to an internal energy risk engineer, the internal energy risk engineers do still get to know about those events that don't make it as far as a claim. Brokers get to hear about some that are maybe borderline, that don't make it to a claim, but generally, brokers are involved with the large claims, and our role is to help get them paid. Now, as an energy risk engineer working for a broker, you do see more than one risk, as opposed to the internal corporate energy risk engineer. They've got their one company. It might have diversified risks, but they're still going to be somewhat limited. Whereas the broker's engineer, while representing those insureds, still gets to see many different types of risks. And last, let's talk about third party risk engineering. Third-party risk engineers work for companies that are outsourced risk engineering, completely outsourced. They have a contract to just do your inspection and give you a report. Now, some of these outfits are accepted and respected by the insurance markets, and they're probably more valued than a broker report. Broker reports are viewed as basically just a commercial for the insured rather than an actual picture of the risk. So the third-party engineering groups, they formed a while ago when the engineering companies realized they had a lot of in-house engineers that didn't travel 100% of the time yet. So they had some more room to work with their schedules. Anyway, the part about being a third party engineer is that you're going to travel an awful lot. And we'll talk about travel here in a second, but that's the big difference, that you're going to just basically go to facility, write a report, go to another facility, write a report. And the facilities may be with the same client, they may not. So I do believe that this is probably a more grueling, but if you're younger and you want to travel more, that's the position that you really want to find yourself in, is the third party group, because they travel all around the world. All right, now let's talk about travel. Which types of energy risk engineers travel the most? Well, I think by far it's going to be the third party risk engineers. They pretty much don't make money unless they're working. And their work involves walking around facilities, taking notes, reviewing documents, interviewing people, taking notes, then going back and writing up those reports. Hopefully, they get at least a week at home to write up a report. Now, they travel a lot, but so do insurance company engineers and brokers engineers. It's possible for corporate risk engineers to travel a lot, especially if they've got multiple locations all over the country. Right, Dan? And there are a lot of corporate risk engineers might only travel within one state, but like I said, there's some that travel all around the country. But for the most part, it's good. The high traveling jobs are going to be the insurance company, the broker, and without a doubt, the third party. Now, part of the travel will involve, for a broker, will involve inspecting plants, participating in the visits with the insurance company engineers and with the internal engineers. But part of it is also involved in presenting the risks to underwriters. If they're the domestic markets, you may be presenting in New York. If it's international, you may be presenting in London. Switzerland or Germany have done all that. So you can go around the world in making presentations as a broker, broker's engineer. The time that it takes away from the work activities is significant. So if you haven't ever traveled before, be careful what you wish for, because once you get into that world, you spend a lot of time being non-productive, standing in line, changing flights, missing connections. All the things that were horrible about traveling 5 years ago are multiplied by several factors now. So really decide what your appetite for travel is, because if you choose this field of corporate risk or of risk engineering, energy risk engineering, if you're not in corporate, you're going to travel a lot. If you are in corporate, you might travel a lot. All right, now let's discuss what these different types of engineers do. Again, let's start with the corporate or internal risk engineer. What is the main focus for that type of engineer? Well, you're going to be concerned with the risks that your operational facilities can't manage. So let me give you an example. If you have a power plant that has boiler tube leaks as a threat or as a risk, boiler tube leak could shut the plant down. That's terrible. It could shut it down for a couple of days. That's terrible. However, a steam turbine fire could shut the plant down for a year, forever. A boiler explosion that could shut a plant down forever. So these are the kind of risks that the corporate risk engineering group will manage. The corporate risk engineering group is tied to the corporate risk management group, and so they're very well connected with what's covered and what's not. If there's no business interruption coverage, then there's no insurance being bought. So when people ask how much are the premiums going to come down if I implement that risk reduction suggestion, if it's improving business income risk and you're not buying business income insurance, there are no premiums to go down. So you're managing your own risk with your own money, but you're not going to get a premium reduction for it. You have to find the value for implementing that suggestion or that improvement through some other means than saving on insurance premiums. So that's the role of the corporate risk engineer, is to help get the risks managed that are not managed at the site level. It may also be to manage a capital budget that allocates money to projects at various sites based on what the criticality or how important the facility is or how bad the risk is. So that's a role that a corporate risk engineer will have. It's a very fun role once you've justified your budget and the need for it. Then getting to choose the projects, working with the insurance company engineers to prioritize what they want done. It makes your renewals so much better. Having a budget as a corporate risk engineer really makes your job easier and makes your risk manager's job easier. The next thing we do as internal energy risk engineers is we're the liaison between the insurance companies and our plants. We never really want to let the insurance company engineers talk to our plant personnel without somebody from corporate risk engineering there. And this role is basically to be the liaison, to help translate some of the technical terms. A lot of times, folks that are in the insurance world might use jargon that doesn't necessarily translate at the plant level. So a internal corporate risk engineer is there to help translate both ways, to translate the technicalities and the risks that are out in the process back to the risk manager so that the right risks are covered for the right amounts, and then also to make sure that the risks are covered. The corporate risk engineers are the eyes and ears of the finance departments that they work in. I found that a lot of times the people in the finance departments don't really have a reason or a need to be out in the facilities other than if they're in risk management. And there's a disconnect between just no relationship between the actual people running the plants and the actual people managing the risk at the corporate level. So you're going to be the eyes and ears. As the corporate risk engineer, you go out and meet all the plant people. You will listen to their needs. You'll find out what it is that they need. The best thing that I saw, what we did, was put on a insurance 101 from the corporate risk management department to the rest of the company. And we explained the whole renewal process and why we needed values and why we needed responses to the recommendations and how the insurance was procured and what a whole quota share system was. We talked about losses in the industry that even though we didn't have them, other utilities were having losses, so our insurance company was getting burned. So you know that the pain is going to trickle down to us if transformers are burning up and boilers are exploding. So you are the eyes and ears of the finance department. You help them see what the risks are out in the facilities. A lot of times the finance department finds out that there's a $10 million project underway that they read about it in the paper, right? So it's important that they're aware of large projects so that they can ensure that they're covered by your master program. So make sure that you're the eyes and ears of the finance department when you're a corporate energy risk engineer. Yes, managing your own risk engineering capital. That is definitely a level up. And I only know a handful of other energy risk engineers who have had the luxury of having their own budget and managing capital projects. It's a challenge to get there, but let me tell you that it starts with making a list of everything that needs to be done and then figuring out what the cost of risk is for each of those projects if they don't get done. So this whole concept of cost of risk, we'll have a whole video on that. But basically, you're going to manage a capital budget that is allocated based on cost of risk and return periods. And then you're going to be managing risk that the insurance companies are going to love. You're going to be working with them on prioritization, and your risk in your company is going to be well liked in the markets. And that's what will distinguish you, not your broker telling the markets that you're better. Your broker can never make you better than you are, and your loss history is going to speak for itself. Your action items on loss control are also going to speak for themselves, and having a capital budget as a corporate risk engineer is really going to make you one of the top risk engineers in the world. Now, moving on, what do insurance company risk engineers do? Well, remember, the internal engineers are focused on losses or risks that are larger than the operational risks. And the insurance company engineer is focused mainly on losses that could lead to claims. In other words, losses that are over the deductible. They'll tell you they're not. They'll tell you that they don't care what the deductible is and that they're only there to give you the best risk management advice that they can give you. That's great. That's fine. But when they turn their reports into the underwriters, if the issue is below the deductible, the underwriter isn't going to make a big deal out of it at renewal. So they offer advice. Now, if that small issue could turn into something that cascaded into a maximum foreseeable loss, yeah, that underwriter is going to be interested in it. So what we want to do is focus on, this is what the insurance company engineers do, is they're focusing on the items that could lead to a claim. They have their set of standards. Again, as I've said, the insurance company standards can be more restrictive than general industry standards like NFPA and API. So it pays to be familiar with the insurance company standards before you're an energy risk engineer. You'll learn them. If you get into the field without learning them, you're going to learn them, because that's what all the audits are basically going to be using as a guide, is the insurance company standards. Now, the insurance company engineer is also going to talk to his underwriters and to other engineers. So they're going to be sort of the liaison. Most of the time when a facility is being audited or inspected by an energy risk engineer from the insurance company, there's no discussion of policy. There's no questions about what's covered. There's no talk about insurance. There's talk about risk. As soon as the discussion goes towards insurance, these engineers quickly turn and say, I have to talk to my underwriter about that. Only my underwriter can talk about coverage. So that's one of the things that when you talk to a insurance company risk engineer, the irony is that you're not going to talk about insurance. You're going to talk about risk. And they're going to have a background of paying losses. So while they may not have the insight of all these small near misses that the corporate risk engineer has, they do have the ability to learn lessons from other actual losses in the field. I will say that with the exception of about one insurance company that I've ever worked with, most insurance companies have a big firewall that separates engineering from claims or loss control from claims. And I don't know why. You know, they don't want the loss control engineers to say the wrong thing. They don't have licenses, so they shouldn't be there at the claim adjusting the claim. I get it, but they should be there investigating to figure out what went wrong and what we can do to prevent it from happening again. With a gag order, just don't have them not talk to the adjuster. That would work very simply. The liaison of a insurance company engineer with other engineers gives you the ability to learn other fields of engineering and to apply them back into your day-to-day expertise. So you're going to be interviewing, whether you're a mechanical or not, you're going to be interviewing mechanical engineers. You're going to be interviewing electrical engineers, and you're going to pick up so much along the way as you ask all these guys these questions, because you'll be talking to subject matter experts in the plants. And I believe that it's a tremendous opportunity to learn and grow. Another important role of the insurance company engineer is to be the eyes and ears of the underwriters. Just kind of like the corporate internal energy risk engineer is the eyes and ears of the finance department. Apparently, risk engineers are good at being other people's eyes and ears. So that's what we are, is the eyes and ears of the underwriter when we're an insurance company under engineer. Insurance energy risk engineers actually have the role of making risk reduction suggestions. If you don't think there's some pressure involved with that, imagine walking through a $1 billion facility and telling the folks that are running it that they need to do something differently. It takes some confidence to be able to do that. And one of the things the insurance engineers try to do is they try to make their recommendations fair and balanced. They're not just looking at a tiny infraction of the National Electric Code somewhere in a junction box. They're actually looking for items that can impact risk, but that are actually feasible at being done. There are some recommendations that would cost way too much and only improve risk a very small amount. And when you start having cost of risk discussions with the engineers, they get it quickly. They realize that it doesn't make sense to put $1 million firewall between a $500,000 transformer and a $100,000 switchgear building, because you're spending more money on the protection than you could lose if you had a fire that took out everything. And before anybody starts commenting on business interruption, which I hope you do, because then I'll at least get some comments. Yeah, business interruption on a small switchgear building isn't going to be near as long as the impact of a 50 MVA transformer and trying to get it. You're going to be down getting that transformer as long or longer as you will be to get that switchgear equipment. And your firewall would not really have done anything if the oil from that transformer runs around the firewall. So you have to do a lot more than just put in a barrier. But that's some of the kind of things that these engineers from the insurance companies think about. They want to be balanced. They don't want to make suggestions that can be just blown out of the water that easily. They want fair and balanced, and they want to make sure that they're going to improve risk at a fee that makes sense, or at a cost that makes sense, not something that is going to bankrupt the company. I always like the motto that profits have to be produced before they need to be protected. Let's talk about what brokers do. Broker engineers are advocates for the client. We are paid by the client. We work for the client. One of our roles is to help the client understand what the insurance company standards are going to be before the insurance company comes and tells them what they have to do. So we're sort of that sounding board that they can ask advice for. We also can help them cost justify projects that get recommended by the insurance companies. When we agree with them, we help their finance department see the value in implementing those suggestions. With client advocates mainly. Brokers also help our clients focus on industry trends. We're on the cutting edge of all the new construction projects. We help place the insurance for those projects, so we get to see the technology that's coming before it's here, really. And we get to work with various sectors of the energy facility. So we're working with hydrogen manufacturers at the same time as we're working with gas turbine operators that are trying to convert natural gas turbines to be able to run on some amount of hydrogen. So it's very interesting and rewarding to focus on the big trends in the field and help communicate those to our insureds, to our clients. When you work for a broker or an insurance company, or basically any company that has clients, you're going to be challenged to explain client-facing business and client-facing opportunities. The phrase client-facing will come into your life. As a representative of a broker for a risk engineer, we're going to probably be the most client-facing member of our team. The rest of the team probably sees the client once or twice a year at renewal and maybe a midterm meeting. But as risk engineers, we're going to be out there seeing them several times a year, depending on the size of the company and how many facilities they have. So we're going to be one of the most client-facing members of our support teams. Many facilities are of the size that you'll have one risk engineer representing either one insurance company or the entire market, and there'll be a broker's engineer along, and that may be the size of the group that comes to visit the facility. However, some of the large chemical manufacturing and refining facilities, they'll have visits with several engineers, the engineers that represent the various insurance companies on their quota share program. So you could have half a dozen engineers. And as soon as you start getting more than two people in a room, there's a chance for personalities to clash, especially when it's such a small industry as we have, and the number of risk engineers available is limited. So their paths cross quite a bit. And as a broker's engineer, you're going to be challenged to referee some of these personality uh, differences. And it can be a challenge, but as you grow and mature into the role, you'll realize that the whole process of this inspection is to get the insurance program settled, and only one report is going to make that happen. That's the marketing report. All the questions from all the other engineers need to come at a time when it doesn't interfere with the actual engineer that's doing the report writing. So you'll pick up on that, and maybe we'll talk about how to conduct a large inspection of a refinery. That might be a great topic to put together. Let me know in the comments. All right, now let's talk about third-party energy risk engineers. And I kind of use that term loosely because most of the third-party risk engineering firms I know are broad, and they focus on industrial facilities. They do have some guys that are specialized in the energy space. So it just always depends on the actual engineer that you get assigned to your project as to whether it's going to be someone who has expertise in that field or not. But if you're thinking about becoming a third-party risk engineer, if you're already a mechanical or electrical, you're going to have an advantage, right? So you're going to know the facilities and the hazards. What you're going to need to learn is how to write a report. I'll take you through that, but there's nothing like reading reports to learn how to write them. And to be honest with you, I don't know very many energy risk engineers that work for insurance companies right now that actually write a report from scratch on a blank piece of paper. I think everybody does a little bit of cut and paste, so you got to be really careful about what you're reading. And if you're a third-party engineer, you're going to travel a lot. At least my experience has been that those guys go all the time, and that they really don't have a say in when their schedule is or where they're going. They just kind of jump to whatever the next business opportunity is that their company wants to send them to. So if you want to travel a lot, look into third-party risk engineers. Third-party risk engineers are usually writing a report that is going to be used to market the program. It's going to be shown to many insurance companies. It's not just for the insured, and it's not just for the lead insurance company. So the reports are going to be tailored basically to marketing, and there will be recommendations. They could be based on standards provided by the insurance company, depending on who pays for these reports. If there's a 2.5% credit for engineering reports built into your premium, then you're actually paying for the reports, but it comes out of your premium after the insurance companies get the reports. So there's a little bit of a lag and a delay. But the key thing to remember is that the third-party engineers are, even if they're being paid directly by the insured, they're writing a report that is going to be used by the insurers. The difference between an insurance company report and a third-party engineering report is the scope and format. An insurance company report is tailored to the underwriter's needs of that company. The third-party report can be really anything that is written in the contract. It can be a comparison to NFPA standards, to API. You basically define the standards that you want, and then the third-party engineer will inspect to those standards. So it's important that if this is going to be used to market your insurance program, that your broker is part of the process so that they can make sure that the people writing these reports are getting all the information that will be needed. Because I can tell you, poor reports that go out into the markets result in a flood of emails and calls asking for follow-up information or confirmation that certain work was done. So let us be part of that process, and the third-party reports will be better. But so if you become a third-party engineer, remember to work with brokers. Something to keep in mind if you're in a company that has had a challenge with risk management and a history of losses, and you want to do some internal audits and not really involve the insurance companies, you can hire these third-party energy risk engineering firms and give them a set of standards like NFPA. Just tell them to go out and find out how well you compare to whatever standard it is that you're looking for. So it doesn't always have to be connected with marketing and insurance program. It can be for improving your own risk without involving the insurance world at all. Okay, let's sum it up. What it means to be an energy risk engineer. Whether you're going to be in corporate, you're going to find great pay in that role. You're going to find a great work environment, a lot of challenge. There's not many of these positions around. The next one would be to work for an insurer. Pay is pretty good for that. They do have a lot of turnover, and there are a lot of moving pieces in that industry. So I've known insurance engineers who've worked for 2 or 3 or sometimes 4 different insurance companies. Working as a broker's engineer, it really depends on what broker it is. I will say that right now that it seems to be a good role to be in. And it just really depends on your level of expertise. The whole world needs consultants, and they need people who know what they're doing with experience. And the more experience that you have, the more your brokerage can sell you. So that's what being a broker's engineer is all about. Third-party engineers, you're going to do piecework. You're going to get paid the lowest amount per hour of actual work. I think that any of the energy risk engineers have. You really will be traveling a lot and expected to crank out many reports per month to basically justify your pay. So it's a tough one. I think that the best ones are for working for a broker or for the corporate. There's just not as many of those positions as there are as working for an insurance company or for third parties. So with that, come back to part 2 and we'll talk about how to become an energy risk engineer. You can decide which kind you want to be as you go along. And then if you guys comment, I will put together specific videos towards the direction that you're interested in. Rather than just filling you with what my interests are. So please leave a comment. Please go back and like it and subscribe if you get a chance. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.